Bonjour, it's Théo. After spending more than 2 years making videos on social media in English as a Frenchman, I became more and more confident in my accent when I speak in English. So into this video I wanted to give you more tips and also share my story about speaking another language and how to feel confident with your accent. I remember when I started making videos in English, my accent was not the best. It's still not the best, but many people, especially French people, were making fun of me because I was speaking in English. And usually in France, many people will feel weird when you speak another language because if you are too good in this language and you have a good accent, they will see you as arrogant. And if you are not good, they will tell you to not speak this language at all. So it's always weird to speak a new language in France when you are French. And maybe it's the same in many countries in the world. And if you are trying to speak English, Japanese, French, Portuguese, any language in the world, I'm sure that you will find many people that will make fun of your accent when you are starting it. So I want, in this video, to help you to be more confident with your accent. First, I want to give you a little story about how I learned English. First, I started English at school, like many people in France. But in France, the school system is not the best, especially to learn a new language. And learning English just with the class, like the regular English class, it's definitely not enough. That's why I had the chance to be in an option class called European English. I was there at the end of middle school and also during all my high school. So for 5 years, I had like 2 more hours of English class each week, and it was the best way to learn more about the history of UK and also the history of US, learn more about the English language with people that were really involved in speaking English. I had the chance with this class to go many times in a class trip to Great Britain, especially Scotland, London, and also Liverpool and Manchester, and I loved the class trips. It was incredible. But at that time, I was not really confident in speaking in English. So when I was traveling to the UK, I was not involved in speaking in English and I was really quiet with my friends, speaking in French with my friends, and I was not trying to improve my English. So I was not confident at all in my accent, in my vocabulary. I was good at English in writing. Writing in English, I was pretty good. But to speak in English, for all the oral presentation in English, I was not the best. But since I'm a kid, I know that speaking English was important. Like learning this new language. If you speak in English in this world, you can speak to anyone in the world. And I knew that. I understood that when I was like 12 or 13, and I started watching videos on YouTube at that time, and the French YouTube was not enough for me. So I started to see video from YouTubers, like English-speaking YouTubers, like Casey Neistat, but also a lot of videos about filmmaking, cinema, and you have to speak English when you want to see the best content on internet. Especially at that time in 2012, you couldn't find a lot of information in French in a specific like niche subject. So I had to speak a little bit of English and to read a lot of articles in English, to watch YouTubers in English, and it helped me a lot to improve my level in English. I was really into filmmaking. I'm still really into filmmaking also with my videos. So I started to read books about cinema, and I found a book called Save the Cat. It's a screenwriting book, and it was only available in English at that time. So I started to read it in English. I was like 14 or 15 years old, and I spent years to finish this book because I was not good at English, but I tried, you know. I tried a lot, and I was always reading the first chapter again to understand more what was in the book. So it was a good school for me, a good education to read a book in English about a subject that I love because it was a simple book and it helped me a lot to improve my level. After the high school, I went to the university in cinema studies in college, and I had some good English class, a really good teacher, I remember. And this teacher were making us speak a lot in English. Like at each class, we had to do a presentation or a little theater class, a little play with the friends. We always had to do something. And at first I was like, I don't want to do all this homework. I'm in cinema studies, not in English studies. Why I am making that? But after a few weeks, I was getting involved in that and I loved to do all these things in English, like the oral presentation, some speech in English, some plays with the friends. Speaking in English, talking about cinema was also a good way to improve. I discovered more about English and also more about my confidence in speaking English in this class. When I finished the 3 first years of college and I started a master, I also started French guy Théo on TikTok and Instagram because I wanted to be more involved in English and also to talk to the world. Because I spent years and years making videos in French, but I wanted to start English content because I was thinking that if you speak English, you can speak to everyone. And I wanted to speak to everyone. So I discovered something new, like a new audience, a new way to make content in English with a strong French accent, especially even stronger at the beginning of my account, because I improved a lot with my videos right now, but at the beginning it wasn't that. Like the accent was terrible. And people were making fun of me because they were thinking that I was faking the accent. Like nobody can be so bad at speaking English and still want to speak English. It's impossible. But I was willing to speak English. So I was really into that, even with a bad accent. And I knew that I was making a good choice, you know. I knew, I had the intuition that I was doing something good, even if the accent wasn't great. And I remember when I started my French Guy Théo account on social media, I was still at university. And I was training myself in the English class. Like I was on the first row in the class, and when the teacher was asking any question, I was the first to raise the hand because I wanted to improve my English. So I was just speaking all the time, even with a bad accent. I knew I wanted to do something in English. I knew I wanted to be better at speaking English, and I was not thinking about the critics at that time. That's my story about speaking English, learning English. Making videos in English helped me so much to improve. When I watch again like my first videos, or I talk to people that were really good at English 2 years ago and I speak with them again in English, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like I improved a lot and I see that. Like I can have really good conversation with friends in English. When I speak in English, I don't think in French, I think in English, and I think it's the sign that you are bilingual. It helped me so much to make videos and content in English to improve. And I want to give you now a few tips if you want to be confident with your accent. The biggest thing to understand, and maybe it's the most important sentence in this video, is that you can't hide your accent. It's impossible. You maybe will the best speaker in your language, but you will still have an accent. Even some celebrities that speak a perfect French in France, like I remember Jodie Foster, for example, is really good at French, speaking in French. Bradley Cooper also, but they still have an accent. Jodie Foster have a really, really little accent, but many people will still have an accent, and it's a good thing. Like having an accent shows that you are from another country, that you have different cultures, you have a richer speaking, you know, a richer talk, because you have multiple accents and multiple culture in your own voice. This is a really good thing. You can't hide your accent. It's something I discovered when I listened to a rapper, a French rapper called Riles when I was in high school. He was making full albums in English. Even with a really good English language, really good level, he still had an accent. Like he couldn't just erase his accent perfectly. So if even him has an accent, you can't hide your own accent. Like I understood that when I was in high school, that you can't hide it, so you just have to accept it. The possibilities, the opportunities that you will have when you speak in another language, it's so much important than the critics that you can have. Like the critics are so small compared to the opportunities that you can have. Just imagine speaking a language that nobody is speaking. You can work in an embassy, you can work in politics, anything you want, you know. As a Frenchman speaking English, I started to make a full-time job out of my passion when I started to speak in English as a French. Something that helped me a lot with my accent, to accept my accent, is to use it a lot. When I started making videos, it was a challenge for me. I had to use my accent every single day. So you need to start and you need to show up with your accent all the time. If you are in the English class, you go on the first row and you start to raise your hand at first all the time, you will be annoying a little at the beginning, but after that you will improve so much. You will feel weird at the beginning if you speak with your accent because you are not used to it. But if you speak with your accent every single day, you will be so used to it that the critics won't have any effect anymore on you. So if I have one tip to give you is to start using your accent every day, like all the time. Create a social media account, make videos, try to learn with Duolingo or another app, like use your accent, speak out loud in your bedroom. You need to get used to your accent so you accept it first. And after that, you will feel that you are not that bad with this new language and that you will improve a lot. If you use your accent a lot, you will improve. And if you improve, you will feel more confident and you will use your accent more and more, and it's a good circle that you will create. The critics will be there at the beginning, but usually the people who critics are the people who don't want to talk. It's only the people that are not taking the risk that will criticize you. Those people are not important. The opportunities you can have by speaking a new language are so high, so important, so big that the critics are so small compared to them. Never forget that. That's it for today's video. Share me in the comments your experience in speaking another language, if you are confident with your accent or not. Tell me everything in the comments because I'm sure that it can help a lot of people. If you want to explore Paris and discover the French way of life, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. I post every single day, so see you tomorrow.